Raanan is fat and he's a Jew. He'll tell you something that you already knew. Your favorite movie sucks. Your favorite movie sucks. American Beauty or Forrest Gump. Your favorite movie sucks.
I can't because I think, when I watch this movie, and I truly, every time I watch this movie, I'm like, this is the most entertaining movie of all time.
Yes, it's very entertaining.
And I think what makes it the most entertaining, riveting movie of all time is this combination of incredible acting that grounds it in realism, with a story that's batshit crazy, and very campy and ridiculous.
Yes,
but because it has such great acting, you're not really you're like engaged in it. There's no detachment.
Yes,
but the story's so crazy, it just goes so many places so quickly.
Well, like, it's a good acting, but okay, like, it's incredible acting, but then there are times where you're like, this is a choice.
Of course.
This is like obviously a choice, and that choice is so crazy to make. Like when he goes, which is an iconic scene, when he goes, when he's like fava beans, and then he goes,
it's more like this.
I don't think the director told you to do that. Like, I think this is all you. But great choice, iconic scene,
but it
memorable.
It also, the thing that justifies, because it is, we'll go through the movie like step by step, but just on an overall view, there are so many things that are just insane, unrealistic coincidences, and just not how serial killers operate in this movie. But the acting like grounds it to a place where it just becomes, it's almost like the movie tricks you into not realizing how crazy the story is. And like you really think this is just a very authentic. Meanwhile, he's kidnapped the daughter of
a senator.
He happens to be like, okay, the two biggest coincidences in this movie. And by the way, these are not really critiques on my part. I actually believe it's what makes this movie great.
Yeah, and you have to have coincidences in movies.
Yes.
Because it's kind of like, it kind of almost feels like that's why we're telling this story.
Right.
Because look how crazy this story is.
Right.
You know?
And it's to me, it's the magic of cinema. Like the magic of cinema. And this to me, this movie's in the tradition of great movies based on like books that are maybe a little silly, like Jaws, where Jaws is a ridiculous.
Or The Godfather. Have you read The Godfather?
Pulp shit.
Yeah.
But you watch a movie and you're
like,
the great acting makes the soap opera feel real, and yet then it still has the crazy cliffhanger, edge of your seat elements of a soap opera, while feeling dignified. It's an amazing magic act. I mean, like, biggest coincidence in the movie is obviously that, and I do a bit about this, but the odds that a cannibal just happens to have the only first name that rhymes with cannibal, just that he's Hannibal the cannibal. Like, that is the only name to rhyme with the proclivity he has that is quite unique.
Right. It'd be like Grapus the Rapist.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be like, I think he's a rapist.
I went with my bit.
They should have caught him a long time ago.
I went with my bit, Child Japist.
Child Japist.
Yours was pretty quick, though. What was yours just now?
Grapus the Rapist.
That's pretty good, too. Yeah.
But no one would be named Grapist.
Well, who
maybe
was
like
named
a German
Child? But yeah, it is insane. Like, and they just like accept it. They're just like, Hannibal the cannibal.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's one of the brilliant things of the movie. It tricks you into not realizing that's ridiculous.
Yes. Also, I mean, Hannibal is a real name, but no one's named that anymore, except, I guess, Hannibal.
Well, it almost, for this to be believable, it almost seems like he started with a name, then he was like, I should be a cannibal for the name.
It's like how there's like a thing that's, it's like a phenomenon where your name, it's like it's called normative determinism, where often it ends up determining your career.
Your name?
So like a dentist who's named Mr. Crown or something.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Is more likely to end up being a dentist.
Runner whose name is like Boing Boing, or what is it? Usama Bolt?
Usain Bolt. Boing Boing. That is, I was like, who's named Boing Boing?
Well, whatever, it's just Bolt. Usama Bolt.
It's Usain Bolt.
Usain.
Yes.
God, I gotta cut this out.
Very famous man.
And then I just gave Osama bin Laden's name.
Osama bin Bolt.
What was his name? Hamas Bolt?
Yeah.
Hamas running.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like some kind of bomb. Anyways.
But yeah, there's sure.
So maybe that's why he became a cannibal.
Interesting. So it's like he had the name that, like, okay, well, honestly, then we figured out that coincidence.
Yes.
Okay. The other insane coincidence in this movie, which once again, and I have to repeat, the movie is brilliant in its editing and it's fast paced, so you don't have time to realize how ridiculous it all is. And I believe that is the magic of movies. If you make a movie quick and exciting enough, you truly don't have time until afterwards. But the other thing that is insane that no one even brings up is that he tells her to get a profile of Hannibal, the cannibal, but really his what's his name, Crawford. His idea is that she's gonna go in there, befriend him, and then he can help give her a profile assessment of Buffalo Bill. Yeah, and it just happens that Buffalo Bill was his patient.
Yes,
it was his patient, and at no point in the movie does Crawford go, "Wow, he really nailed that one."
But do you think Crawford knew though?
How could he have known?
Like, I don't know. I guess I just assumed that
this
they must.
This is the brilliance of the movie. It's so fast paced, it doesn't make you have time to realize.
I just assumed that maybe they.
But based on what?
I don't know. Maybe they had narrowed it down to
how. Like they never. Well, it's not in the movie, so
because it does do like a lot of FBI profile stuff.
Yeah, but like and of course, in reality, this was based on. They had hopes that Ted Bundy could have given was going to give a good now when they're trying to find the Green River killer, he offered to give his profile of him. So the idea of a serial killer helping catch another serial killer, and they kind of use that for this. But no, I mean whatever's in the movie is what's in the movie, and there is no
crazy.
They just gloss over that point.
Yes, not only is he his student, he like knows.
He knows him from the beginning.
He knows that he had killed. He says he had killed a vagrant.
Yes,
and did something to her that really disturbed his partner.
Right. He knows he had as his patient, the guy's partner, and him. So once again, Crawford is just getting her to try to get eventually, I guess, build a friendship.
Right.
So and once again, he just happens to have had as a patient Buffalo Bill, and also has kept in his own storage one of Buffalo Bill's maybe second victims.
Yes.
Benjamin. Yes. So, and at no point is Crawford, they just run with it. Like in the next, eventually Crawford's in a car with her and they're going, but at no point is Crawford like, by the way, that's
isn't
insane.
that crazy?
Isn't that great? Like he's no like, wow, we really hit the jackpot. I was just hoping he would give an assessment.
Yeah,
but
he knows him.
Which is also the odds that one of the biggest serial killers just happened to have as a patient another serial killer. Now,
but maybe it's a small community.
Well,
they all know each other.
There is something in the book apparently that actually may explain this, but once again, it's not in the movie, so you can't say it's there. And it's this. Apparently, in the book, I guess his backstory. This might have been in Silence of the Lambs or the first book, Red Dragon, which are both great books. Apparently, Hannibal was a therapist who actually tried to make his patients who are psychopathic more psychopathic.
Okay.
He would eat the ones he found boring, and then he would try to make the psychopathic ones.
They're like, ooh, tough being boring.
But that means you don't need therapy, so it's kind of good.
Right. He kind of fixed it.
It means you're well adjusted.
Yeah.
And then he would I guess, make the psychopathic ones more psychopathic to send them out into the world. So that does actually kind of explain that coincidence. But once again, it's not in the movie, so it doesn't really.
Yeah.
But I mean, once again, it's the editing that just. I think the editing in this movie is something you can really learn from because it's so tight and fast paced that you do not have time. And I say this as a compliment. You do not have time to realize how ridiculous it all is.
Also, okay, but then here's the other argument for it is like, it's like, okay, let's assume that it's not, based on a book or whatever, like it's just made into a movie. It would be weird for them to do the Ted Bundy thing where you try to make a profile. The serial killer does not know what he's doing and he does not know the guy.
Yeah.
So then it just wouldn't be worth telling that story. So the coincidence is kind of like why you're even telling this story.
Right.
Because if he hadn't been successful in helping her in any way, then it would just be not a story.
Maybe. I mean, you could say a serial killer is really smart, could like figure out clues from looking at it.
Right.
And to be fair, Hannibal Lecter does, even though he knows. By the way, that's what's really funny about the movie. He knows who it is the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny when he goes in on the first scene. He's painting. Doesn't even really. He's painting a dome in Belvedere.
Yes.
And Belvedere is a town that that Buffalo Bill is in at the end. So he's like
I didn't even notice that.
He's giving her a clue right away.
Yeah, and then takes it off the wall.
And it's like, even though like he wasn't even supposed to know that like she was there for that assessment, you know what I mean?
Right, like how would he know that she's coming? Unless maybe he was just kind of keeping up with the news and he's like, he lives in Belvedere and then
but let's go
draw this.
Let's go through the whole story. Though I do want to bring up before we do it, just to me, the biggest plot hole in this movie, which I do think is like not needed, is when they break into the house at the end. They do that cheating editing, which is great. And they break into his home in Illinois.
Yeah.
It does that zoom in on Crawford, and he goes, Clarice, how does he know she's in danger? How does she know he's going to be? She just said he's doing some investigation. She's like, the last phone call, she's like, I'm going to go to Belvedere and like do some research and interviews. Yeah. How would he know she's just opened the door to where Buffalo
Maybe
Bill...
they've narrowed down 2 places he could be. And he's like, well, the other place he could be is Belvedere. That's where Clarice is going.
If it's not in the movie, I just don't think you can say it. Can you? I mean, like...
okay, I think if you did... Because
you're adding a scene. You are adding a scene.
Yes, I'm adding a scene. But the reason the scene, I think, one, shouldn't exist is because then it's too much exposition.
Yeah.
You would kind of be like, you've ruined the movie by putting that scene in. And so for us to put that hopefully together kind of feels like, okay... interesting versus if they had done the exposition, you'd be like, I didn't need to. You didn't need to tell me that.
And once again, you're right. And once again, this is not something I realized the first time I saw it. This is something you realize afterwards. So once again, it's just that fast editing that just kind of makes you like it's a movie.
Yeah.
It's like what Spielberg, when they were making Jaws, at the end they talked about how they're going to put the what do you call it? The scuba diving. The oxygen tanks in his mouth to make it blow up. And someone was saying to Spielberg, that wouldn't make a shark blow up. It's just a thing of oxygen. It doesn't blow up. And he's like, give me an hour and 45 minutes of the audience and I'll have them. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it is true. There are things that aren't really shown. Like when she breaks into the house at the end, I do think she calls back up, even though they don't show her call back up.
Yes.
Because first of all, it'd be insane if she didn't call back up. Like,
because she's also,
reckless.
It's also, we're just made to assume that everyone involved is kind of smart.
Yeah. But they definitely do not show it, and it seems like she goes downstairs fairly quickly. Yeah. But so let's go through the movie from the beginning, because we can go through a lot of the great elements. And once again, I really just, when I watch this movie again, and every movie now seems so boring compared. Even the good ones seem so boring compared to this movie.
The Nick Cage movie that what was it?
Legs.
Yes, Long Legs. Not that it's boring. I actually really liked Long Legs, but watching this and then being like, well, that's like the new Silence of the Lambs.
That's insane.
It's like not.
It also
quite.
Long Legs kind of fails in a way where I'm like, in Silence of the Lambs, after the movie, you realize how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
With Long Legs, you're realizing it in the moment.
Long Legs is
You're like,
more
this is ridiculous.
Campy and weird.
Yeah, it's a good tone. It has a great tone to it.
Yes, really tense beginning.
But I was arguing with someone. It could have been you about Long Legs.
It could have been me.
They're trying to defend it, and I said the best way to like, I just said, try to explain to me what actually happened. And if someone tries to explain it, it really falls apart.
Yes, because you have to believe in the devil.
And also, just everything Nicolas Cage does at the beginning makes no sense.
Right.
But
that's, again, Nicolas Cage, I think every movie he's in, he's acting on his own direction.
Yes,
I don't think he's following directions.
But I would say also the thing that you cannot I mean, the fact that Jodie Foster's like comparing that to, I mean, What's Her Name is good, but
yeah.
But like also the other thing is like Nicolas Cage as him does not hold a spark to maybe one of the, and not Hannibal Lecter, one of the most underrated performances of all time, Ted Levine as Buffalo Bill.
Yes.
Which is one of the great performances that is got really overlooked by Hannibal Lecter. Anthony Hopkins is great, but he's obviously over the top. Yeah. Buffalo Bill is created such a physical monster embodiment on every level, and it's so terrifying.
There is a scene where it's like the famous, like, it puts the lotion in the... You know, but then it's a really funny scene because Buffalo Bill, fully in character, obviously, like, being like, it puts the lotion, whatever. And then he gets so frustrated, he's like, put the lotion on!
Well, that's
it feels like a break, but it's
No,
really well done.
It's really well done. It's
but it could easily just be read as comedy.
Of
too.
course, the whole I mean, but it's also like watching it. I think as a kid, I didn't realize the point of that moment, and then as an adult, you're like, oh, he's trying so hard to be a woman.
Yeah,
and then that anger just comes out.
Yeah, yes.
He's like, put the lotion in the basket. Put it in the basket. Put the lotion in the fucking basket. And then even when she's screaming, he's not mocking her when he's screaming. He's trying to like get the woman's voice.
Yes.
He's a violent man trying to become a woman. And then can't because he's too violent.
Seeing that was like, it made me think like, every time I see a kid cry, that's my first impulse is to start screaming exactly the way they're screaming. Because like it's you're kind of like frustrated. You're like, I don't even know what to do with this. So then a kid in a plane crying, I very deeply want to also start doing exactly what the fuck you're doing. You know?
You ever had a kid crying so loud on a plane where you're like, there's no way this kid's not a bad person. Like you just like you can't.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Oh my God. I saw a kid just fully drawing on the like. I'm like, bad parents, bad kid. All of you guys are all fucked.
Yeah. But I guess that Buffalo Bill part screaming like the victim.
Yeah.
I feel like that became a trope. And I don't know if that was a trope before. I feel like maybe that movie kind of established that trope. Because I feel like that happens a lot now in horror movies.
You don't feel that way? You don't feel whenever someone's screaming, you don't want to also be like, you know, when someone goes, wah, you don't want to be like, wah. Like just as a
this is tough. This
as
is
a rebuttal.
A very weird thing that you're like making me feel weird for not feeling. You don't want to just mimic a child in pain just to like.
It just feels.
I don't even understand the
That's
objective.
always been my first impulse. It's
but
like,
why? Are you trying to become a child like the way Buffalo Bill's trying to become a woman?
I think what I'm trying to do is because it's very frustrating when they're screaming.
Yeah.
And you're frustrated, and it seems like there is no logic that you can't talk to this kid about stop screaming, you know? So to me, it's like the only thing I can do is fight fire with fire. That's what it feels like. And then you're like, how do you like it when I do that? You know?
That's definitely the behavior of a autistic person. Which
of a
you might
full
be.
psycho.
You're like, I just recreate their illogical feeling to do
to
I love
show
how you try to
them
roll
how
me into
crazy
it, though.
it is.
You don't cry when a baby's crying to show how annoying it is to the baby.
I think sometimes the babies do stop when you start doing that.
If a baby shits his pants next to you, do you shit your pants to have
be
the
like,
baby smell?
Don't you hate that? We all hate it.
Yeah, I've never done that. When a baby's breastfeeding, I'll also
you'll also find a breast nearby.
See it to show the baby how inappropriate this is.
There was that scene where he meets the senator and he's talking about her.
Oh, the nipples.
Tits. Yeah, just that's another great scene. Just great acting.
Great
acting.
acting.
It could be really dumb if it wasn't done well.
He's wearing a muzzle.
Yes, it's insane when you watch this. It's also like weird because he is in the facility. I think only so that it's better to film these scenes.
Yeah.
He's behind glass.
Right.
But other patients are not behind glass.
Another plot hole, I think. If you have him with the glass thing and then the other guy is throwing cum when people walk by, I'd say give him the glass.
Yes, give him the glass.
If you only have one glass cell to go around, give it to the cum throwing guy.
Yes.
Well, it's also funny just the fact that like a cannibal is someone who kills humans, cooks them, and eats them. But they treat him as a cannibal as meaning biting people in real life, which is a whole different...
That's
they basically treat him
more
like
a
wolf.
dog. Yeah.
like if that's not what like Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't like biting people. They treat cannibal as literally get away from the glass or he'll bite you.
Or he will take a chunk out of you.
Like Jeffrey Dahmer is just like giving interviews. He's not like, you don't put a muzzle.
He's not like not able to be in public. Like he was able to maintain a life.
Well, it's just literally like they think cannibal just means like he will bite your face off.
Yeah, he's like a badly behaved dog.
But he's also an intellectual.
Yes, and he's
like
also
this poetry reading wolf.
Also, like was able to hold down a job.
Yeah,
a very important job for years. Not biting people, I assume, because now other people in the faculty he's not biting.
He hid it for very long, and now he will bite you.
Yes, now he can't control himself. It is insane.
And they're giving the glass to him, and he's throwing cum.
Also, give him the glass, and also just to be safe, I would put the regular bars on it too.
Why
is it just glass?
Yeah,
it's to make shooting look better.
Of course.
So that like, but then you're like, then don't give anyone the bars. Like,
but this is like the point. Like, it's so ridiculous. I mean, going to that first scene. All right, let's start from the beginning, and we'll get through each one. So the movie opens her. I mean, it's so It's just her like climbing obstacle courses and shit. You know, I can see why you love this woman.
Yes,
a petite woman trying to like
kind of butch,
a petite overachieving butch woman. Yes. You know, who just wants to be one of the boys.
Yeah, just so badly, and is like. There's actually a couple of feminist points she makes. But like she out loud is like, there's that scene with Crawford where Crawford says like, you know, a woman something, and then in the car you can tell she's like brooding. She's like mad, and he goes, "Were you mad about what I said?" And then she goes, "I just think other cops look to you for how to treat women," and it's like. I can't believe you guys included this scene. It's like a pretty interesting thing to include.
The movie is literally like. The male gaze is such a reoccurring thing in this movie.
That guy tries to fuck her immediately. It's like, you want to party in Baltimore?
Everyone's trying to fuck her immediately. Yes. Everyone except for Jack Crawford is either throwing cum at her or wanting to fuck her.
But even then, Hannibal is like, do you think Jack Crawford wants to fuck you? Yeah, which is like...
Everyone is pretty much...
Yes, Hannibal's like, there's no way someone doesn't want to fuck you.
And it's almost suggesting that... And she's not that hot.
No. She's like beautiful in a porcelain way.
Yeah, but not like every guy. She's like... She's not like, she's very like, there's a very cerebral quality to her. And every guy is like, every guy is just like, who the hell is that?
Yeah, I think it's like, what's the Supreme Court justice?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
No, the first one who was the first woman to become a Supreme Court justice.
Oh, Ruth
I don't
Bader
remember.
Ginsburg?
No. I don't remember, but I was reading her Wikipedia one day and it was like, she had 4 proposals in law school. And it's like, because women weren't allowed in law school. So if you're in law school and you see her, she was hot, but it was like, everyone's like, this is the only person around. I guess I'll marry her.
It's like being the one straight guy in the theater department. You just fuck so much. You have like,
by then you're gay.
She's like always like, she's like one of 2 women. And they're just, but the other thing is like, what makes it so brilliant, I think at that time I was rewatching it last year. I tried to watch that Boston Strangler movie with Keira Knightley. And those movies, the feminism in movies usually is so preachy and just spelled out in this really obnoxious way. Yeah. Like it'll just be the woman being like, they don't want to, you know, or the boss will just be ridiculously like, we can't have a woman on this job. And this is told so visually
it's
incredible. Like the fact that just visually you see the guys when she's running, you see like the guy who gives her the message look at her being like, I want to fuck her. Then you see the guys running, looking back at her.
Yes, they turn around.
And then, which is true. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but...
It's okay. I think it's done really well visually, but then also you can kind of go inside her head, or like, at least like, me watching this, it's like, yes, you know people want to fuck you, but you're kind of trying to leverage that without getting fucked.
Right.
You know, so you can tell that maybe she is also considering if Jack Crawford wants to fuck her.
Right.
You don't know, but she's like, but that could really help my career if I don't fuck him, but let him.
And that handshake at the end kind of like signifies, he's like, I could want to fuck you.
Yeah.
Well, you know how like, sometimes I'll like, in the past, I've been wanting to like, I'll do a favor, like when I was in college, I do a favor for a girl to try to fuck her, and then I get friend zoned, and then I pretend that favor was just altruistic.
Yes. It's like
You're
women
like, oh no, I just cleaned her house and took her to the airport because I'm a good person. All things come trying to fuck the person, but they can become altruistic if
of course. And then as a woman, you're being obtuse on purpose. You're like, why would you think I thought we were friends? You're being obtuse sometimes because you're like, I need to get this done.
Right. And it's interesting too, because like in many ways the message of the movie is that a woman working as an FBI agent, it feels just as outside as a cannibal. It's basically a woman is alienated. They're basically both feel like outsiders. He's a cannibal and she's just a woman who works for the FBI.
He can't stop biting people.
And people look at both of them like they're freaks. Yeah. And I mean, to me, the shot of her in the elevator with the guys, I'm like, I wish every preachy feminist movie would realize, like, instead, feminism is fine, but when you spell it out, when you just have
first of all, you saying feminism is fine.
That I said it's fine.
Look, I'll allow it, but
I said it's fine. I said it's like, I mean,
it's allowed to happen as long as it does not.
I said it like it was a
me.
necessary evil. Feminism is fine.
Whatever you ladies want to do,
but
just don't talk to me about it.
Just don't spell it out. Yeah. And that shot of her in the elevator with the guys, and the way they have the other guys wearing all red and she's wearing gray, and she's so short, it's just all these men around her. Yeah. And they gangbanged her on that elevator, right?
Also, okay.
The elevator door opens and she just
she flirts with that guy with the bugs.
Yeah.
And in
the book, apparently he starts dating her.
Like, because he asks her out, and you can tell she's flirting back.
Even though he has like cross eyes.
Yes. When they're showing him head on, I was like, what is this casting choice? What am I supposed to take away from the fact that?
But I could see her being the kind of girl who goes with a nerd.
Yes, exactly. I think
he's like a cocky nerd.
Well, yeah, because he asked her out point blank.
She's like, "Are you?" It's kind of funny because it's kind of like a little like sexual harassment. I mean, like, well, maybe not, but like,
right? Because
they are on like a murder case, and he is just like, "What are you doing after this?" He's
yeah.
Like, are you asking? Are you to go? And he's like, "Yes."
Yes. And then they just don't show it again.
I know, but he's at the FBI thing, so clearly
she's a bug thing. So is he like a bug guy?
I think he just works. He's just like what do you call it?
I thought he worked at a museum.
He works at the Natural History Museum.
Yeah,
but he's what's the bug people called? I don't know. Anyway,
right there. Yeah.
Anyway, he works there, but I think she invited him to the FBI thing at the end. I don't think he'd get an invite. I think she invited him because she's probably like, I think they're gonna hook up.
Right, they're gonna hook up.
But I could see her being was like a confident nerd.
But she immediately was flirting.
She was flirting. The only guy she flirts with.
Yes. Is this guy who's cross-eyed.
That's a great point.
It's like, it's apropos of nothing. There's nothing. Yeah, the first interaction they have is she's already smiling. It's like, why?
I guess she finds it cute that they're playing chess with bugs.
Yes, and the other guy was weird because the other guy gets kind of aggressive and is like, how do you play chess?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, that nerd is too nerdy.
It is
but
weird.
This nerd is kind of more normal.
Cross eyes. You know what it is? Every guy's looking straight at her.
Right.
So
she's like, finally, I don't even know where he's looking. I have no idea.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I actually think that's 100% it.
That's got to be it.
He's the only one who breaks the male gaze because his eyes are going every different way.
She's surrounded by so many extremely masculine men because they're all like sort of in the FBI.
A nerd who's like looking at the corner of the room all the time.
Right, where you're never sure how he feels about you.
Dude, honestly,
because he doesn't look at you.
I'm beginning to think that might have been deliberate. Like, when you think about the amount of people looking straight at the camera, which is her POV.
Yeah.
And then this guy just cannot look straight ahead.
I was like, why is this choice being made?
Because every other guy, she's like, I'm a woman and I didn't go to charm school. Yeah. And then he's like, what are you doing after this? She's like, are you hitting on me?
Yeah.
So, that's a great point. So, all right. So she gets called into the FBI, the elevator shot, which is great. She goes in with Jack Crawford. And we have to talk on a film level the power of POV shots in this movie.
Yeah.
This movie has so many POV shots. It's almost like borders on avant-garde sometimes. It's like it's like a unique movie. I mean, Jonathan Demme does this in other movies, but you don't have a lot of movies. I mean, I don't know if you saw Nickel Boys this year, which is pretty much all POV.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a great movie. But this is like a huge amount of POV.
Yeah.
Like a huge amount. Looking right at the camera, almost like, I mean, it's definitely
a lot of face shots.
A lot of face shots. This whole movie is filmed with about, I'd say, 80% close-ups.
Yeah.
80% close-ups, very few wide shots, and then like so many shots where the people are looking directly into the camera, which is her POV.
Yeah.
And POV plays such a big part, even to the end where it's through his night goggle. It's all like just POV shots, which is an interesting style. I mean, it feels a little like you feel like you're in her head.
Yeah.
You feel like it's almost like those video games where you're like the beginning.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go down this?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's like a first-person shooter.
First-person shooter, because you have Jack Crawford right away being like, don't let him get into your head and looking directly at her.
Yeah. And the only sort of like, I guess, like when we first see Buffalo Bill, it's from the back. Like no one's watching him except us.
Yeah.
And that one's kind of like a lonely shot.
Yeah.
Because it feels like he's so, just, it pans the whole room and then we land on him. And so that one's more like a solitary, scary shot for some reason.
Right.
But then when we look down on the girl, it's his POV.
Yes.
And then we look up at him from her POV.
Yeah.
And those are both really scary because
you're just there.
Yeah, you're like in this hole.
There's no, like, this isn't Kubrick who does a lot of detached wide shots. This is you're just in that world for the most of it. You're in her head. And that's important because the male gaze does play a big part of this. So the male gaze also is, what's the male gaze effect on her?
Yeah.
So in her head, you get to be in her shoes and see
the creepiness of these men.
The world through a woman is just guys just constantly looking at her.
It makes me think of I think it's like a Chappelle joke where he's like I never understood like why women are scared or whatever walking around, and then someone told me, if you were walking around with $10,000, how would you feel?
That's exactly right.
Yes, and it feels like you always have a commodity someone is trying to get from you.
It's just a whole group of people not raping because of a social contract.
Right. Yes. Basically. But then she works in a field where she's like, but a lot of them do rape. Then it's like more scary.
Well, then the male gaze also of Buffalo Bill, which he's literally looking at women, and it's so funny too, the fact that like he's too violent to be really transsexual, right? They make that clear. By the way, I think they
say he's not a real transsexual,
which I believe they put that in there specifically to not get the transsexual community mad at them.
Right. Because there was a lot of like,
there's a little flag.
There's also like Psycho was sort of like the main problem they had was,
trans. I mean, maybe the reason we're so transphobic is that a transgender person is at the core of like so many horror movies.
Right. Well, they just think like it was just portrayed for a long time as like, if you want to show someone who's fucked up, that's what they would show. And I think this movie does a good job of being like, I don't even know if it does a good job. Actually, like I could not, when I was listening to that speech that Hannibal is giving, where he's like, but just know that they're not really transsexual. That's probably why they're denied care.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like, well, what is the chicken and the, like, so, or could it be that being denied care all the time would lead you to become...
Right. Also, couldn't you be a man but deep down a woman, but that woman is violent?
Right. Yeah. It's like very implicit that women can't be violent like that.
Could I be like, I'm a female serial killer deep down?
Yes.
Well, I think they spell that out to try to not get, which is really funny because like in the last, like the trans community has been very loud and outspoken. I feel I didn't even know they like had any voice back then, but apparently it doesn't even like, but apparently they were concerned that, like, I guess the LGBTQ community in general, that they were going to give a bad name to transsexuals by having them cut off women's skin and wearing them as a dress.
So I don't know why that would be read as maybe offensive.
So they put that in the movie. It is funny that they're like, he wants to be a woman, but he's too violent.
Yeah.
And it is funny that it's like, I just want to be a woman, and the best way for me to be a woman is to cut off their skin.
Right. And put it on.
Yeah, that is kind of a man thing.
It's weird because it's like, he's talking about how, like, it's not that he's transsexual, it's that he just doesn't want to be himself anymore.
Right.
And so I guess that's like an interesting take on this guy's psychosis, is he just doesn't want to be himself anymore.
Right. And you see like...
And has become psychotic.
And he's become psychotic because he's trying to like transform from the monster.
Right.
But by transforming, he is becoming the monster.
Right.
Like cutting off... If you're like, I want to not be this violent, horrible person.
Yes.
And then you're like, I know what I'll do. I'll cut off women's skin and wear it.
Right.
I'm like, that's not... You're still going...
You have a huge problem.
This is not the beautiful transformation. This is not the character arc you think it is.
That you thought this was the first solution. He's like, well, the first solution was going to Johns Hopkins. And they said no. And so my plan B was...
But it's kind of a very pro-trans movie because it's saying if you don't give trans people gender assignment surgery, they will just cut off women's skin, which is kind of an urgent way.
No.
It's kind of an urgent way to like allow gender reassignment surgery.
Right.
If you think of him as transgender.
Right.
But I guess he's not.
Yeah, I guess he's not.
But if he's not in there, that would be
It's also tough because now it's like, now that there's more clarity on, because this was still made at a time where there isn't really like mainstream clarity on like what these issues even are. But now it's like, but he's not, but it's like, but is he? And also just happens to be psychotic, because that nuance is not allowed to exist.
Right,
it's
right.
Because you can be gay and insane.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that exactly. They go out of their way to be like.
Yeah. But he's not. But he's doing a lot of things.
It was like trying to shield itself from controversy, but by doing that, it was kind of like putting a halo over a community.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, trans people are all passive. It's like, I know trans people.
Yeah.
They don't seem very passive to me.
But also it's like, I don't understand why
Not
they even
in a bad
needed
way,
to.
but they don't seem very passive.
Like, why did they need to even, I guess, bring it up? Because you could also have a backstory. If you really want to steer clear, you could just be like, guy who's psychotic and is making a skin suit out of women.
Right. Why bring up he's not transsexual?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why even bring that up into this?
It's like if there was like a serial killer kill people, and then someone was like, it's not because he's Muslim.
Yeah.
It's like no one was bringing that up.
Right. Why did you mention that?
It's like I was at
now it feels like maybe it is like
I was at a show once, and my cousin, I had a relative there who was, I guess, a little backwards in his thinking, and he went up to me and he goes, there was an opener, and he goes, I didn't like the opener, and not because he was black. I'm like, what was the thinking there?
I never was gonna guess. Yeah.
Well, your thinking there clearly had to be okay. His thinking clearly had to be in that moment. Maybe I don't like him because I don't find him funny, but I've definitely had other problems with people because they're black.
He's been heard, or he's been told this before.
But black has been the reason, and I want to make it clear, it's not the reason now. But so, it is an interesting thing with that whole thing, and it gets also to another issue that I want to talk about, which I've said for a long time, that the way serial killers are treated in movies. Now it's kind of different. Mm-hmm. The way serial killers are treated in movies is that one big part of that kind of defines most serial killers is removed, which is rape.
Right.
Serial killers in those movies are not rapists. Even in this, they go, nothing sexual. He's just cutting off the skin.
Yeah.
You know
Nothing sexual.
Even in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's actually at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, she's like, she basically offers to blow them. Yeah. And they're like, we just want to eat you. And, 7, he's just doing basically performance art. There's nothing sexual, which is interesting because with serial killers in real life, it's almost always sexual.
Yes.
It's violence intertwined with sexuality.
Right.
And you will definitely have rape for most serial killers. And if not rape, jacking off at the crime scene or some shit. And my theory is they're trying to treat serial killers like still essentially universal monsters.
Yeah.
And a monster is something you can't comprehend.
Right.
And rape is actually, in its own way, I mean,
Go
human.
ahead. Yeah.
Well, it is human. I mean, it is something where society, all of society is built on the suppression of murder and rape.
Yeah.
Which is why it comes out in wars and stuff.
Yeah.
And if they were rapists, it's not like you'd be like, I relate to that.
Yeah.
But it would give a banality to them, and they have to be beyond the banality of humans. They have to be
super.
They have to be monsters.
Yeah.
Like at the end when he's literally a bug.
Yeah.
You basically could just call him Bugman.
Yeah.
That's Bugman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the rape takes that away, and so there's never rape in those, and so it's not really accurate to real serial killers.
Giving a lack of a reason, which is interesting because you could also argue the other point of view, which is that a murder can be justified.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could kill someone out of pure whatever, anger, whatever that emotion is, is driving you. But then rape, you're like, all right, you can't justify that because you can't be like, I raped her because
I had to stop a bomb from going off.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It'd be great if you ever had to be in that situation.
Exactly. It was inside her. But
I don't want to do it.
So in that way, one of them is more logically digestible to society because you can see that, and then the other one's like, well, there is no excuse for what you did other than that you're being selfish.
I feel really bad because I want to make it clear what I was like. I feel like it could be misconceived as I said.
No, I
they didn't make them rapists because people could relate to that
right.
too much. That's not what I mean.
No, I know.
I mean that there's a banality to real serial killers, something not extraordinary.
Yes.
The truth is, Ted Bundy was just a rapist.
Yeah, he was just a rapist who had to silence his victims.
And I mean, to be fair, he liked killing them too.
Right.
But he was just a rapist and murderer who knew how to get away with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That is essentially a serial killer is someone who has some level of self-control or intelligence where they can get away with rape and murder. Yes, they keep
getting away with it.
But so it gives it a banality, a dullness, and then a lack of extraordinariness.
Yes.
And they can't have that in this movie. That's why Hannibal Lecter, they don't have any sexual. First of all, Hannibal Lecter is pretty much gay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch that movie, that's a gay man. Seriously, she comes in.
It's like he's like the superhero of this movie.
Yes, for sure.
He is such a superhero, and then there exists a supervillain.
Yes.
And that supervillain, it's like how Thanos does not have logic.
Right.
Except that Thanos does have logic. But it's
you mean that Avengers? We're not allowed.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Marvel movies on this podcast.
But what I'm saying is like you want to create a superhero who doesn't have logic or supervillain who doesn't have logic because logic can be broken down.
Right.
You can say like, well, don't,
Yeah. And there's nothing in Buffalo Bill anyone can be like,
yeah,
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just pure monster.
Right.
But I mean, I will say like the sexuality's taken away and Hannibal Lecter is, he's basically a gay man.
Right.
He comes in there, he starts telling her what kind of skin cream she's wearing.
Yeah.
He's like, he's a catty gay man.
He also says Evian with an accent, which is really funny.
He goes, stop, the answer's not on your second
like Florence?
He's like, the answer's not on your second-rate shoes. He's a gay man. He's making fun of her shoes.
He says expensive purse and cheap shoes.
Yes, that is a gay man
so
roasting.
Funny.
Yeah. His first line is, I can't smell your pussy. Because pussy has no effect on him. And of course, the gayest line in the movie, there's one line that's the gayest line.
What is it?
It's when he meets the senator at the end. Senator, love your suit. I mean, it's basically Paul Lynde. I mean, like
that is interesting that they are like really trying to steer clear of, LGBT, like backlash, presumably.
Even though the two serial killers are
and
gay
they're
man
like, and we're gonna imply that they are both kind of gay.
No, two serial killers are gay man and a trans man.
Because Buffalo Bill is gay.
Yeah,
because he was dating his patient.
No, it is a kind of gay man and another gay trans.
Yeah,
but we don't have to look into that.
Yeah, we can't because we're not provided all the information. We don't know what Buffalo Bill actually wants.
But I do think it's interesting the way they take out the rape and everything. I mean, it's just not real serial killers. Serial killers, at a young age, their sexuality and their violence got intertwined.
Right.
So they could only be turned on sexually by violence. And that's not the case for either one of them.
Yeah.
But that's the case for like most serial killers.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. There is the serial killer in movies and the serial killer in real life. And the serial killer in real life is typically banal and not extraordinary.
No.
And then it gets interesting. Like when you look at Seven, you're like, is that even a serial killer? He's like a terrorist.
Yeah, see, he's not a serial killer in Seven because I think in Seven he's more like...
He's like a terrorist making a point.
Or like a cult leader of some sort. Like where it's motivated by something that he thinks of as...
Right.
A pattern that he needs to complete kind of thing.
Exactly. But it's never like lust.
There's
no violent lust, which is the compulsion that makes a serial killer. A serial killer has a sexual violent compulsion that keeps up. I seem like I really know about this.
Yeah. They have a sexual psycho compulsion.
The bad that I brought you to this basement. And
I know. I'm like, oh my God. There's suitcases for my body, I assume. Just body parts. That room is completely dark. God.
It's not relatable because there's no rape.
There's a camera. And you know how everyone wants to rape. Everybody. Given the opportunity, they would love to. Everyone would love to partake in rape.
It does look like a snuff porn.
Yeah, and it's upside down.
All right. Anyway, so I so that's
and you have like a note that just seems like your hand wrote like why you killed me. Yeah.
So I think like I just think it's interesting that serial killer movies, serial killer real life and movies are very different always.
Yeah.
But so it's also interesting serial killers in movies, they're like providing the symbolism, which is interesting. People, like I watched something where people were like, what does the moth represent? But it's like Buffalo Bill's the one doing that. He's the one like, I want you. He's basically serial killers in movies. They're
poetic.
They're poetic. They're very literary.
Yeah, they have like messages they want to give to you. Whereas serial killers in real life don't have messages. The only messages they give are because they again get turned on by the idea that someone's reading this message and crying.
Exactly.
Probably.
But they're not like, there's not a mission.
Right. There isn't like
Ted Bundy wasn't on like some.
Right. No, there's no like beautiful poetry to what they're doing.
Exactly. So in the beginning, I can't believe it. We'll go quickly.
Okay.
We're still stuck in the first. I want to talk about editing a lot more of this movie because I do think like the two things that make this movie so unique directing wise is the amount of POVs and the amount of incredible editing. But another interesting thing I do think is like when she goes down the basement to that first, like that is not, and this is the magic of movies, that is not how a criminal insane asylum looks. Yeah. This looks like,
on the outside it looks like a Victorian home and on the inside it looks like a
medieval
dungeon.
Yes. It's a medieval dungeon. And it's just a testament to the movie that like we buy it.
Yeah.
But it's like insane.
Yeah.
It's like walls from like these old like moldy walls.
Yeah. Also, throwing cum on her face is another like I guess I'll accept this, but it would have to be solid. Like I just don't think you can throw it that far.
Yeah, like, I don't think so. He would just be like,
it would just kind of
it would just kind of fall on the ground. Yes,
but it gets on her
It's
face.
a little too ropey.
It's insane. Yes. I mean, he's
just like throwing it like it's shit.
Yes.
Like a monkey throwing shit.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. In reality, he'd be like, huh.
Yeah.
And
it wouldn't get anywhere.
It would just fall back on his dick.
Yeah. It would just get on your hands more.
Yeah.
Like it.
That's a good point.
Made it seem like one of those green slimes that are solid but are also liquid.
Also, like, in reality, if you go to like a criminally insane, like, or like, they're just people behind bars.
Yes.
You don't have to watch. It's not like you're passing a tiger.
Yes.
You don't have to like watch. You don't have to be like, I gotta stay really in the middle.
Yeah, but they always do that. They always show like people trying to grab at you.
That's like not like it's like if you really went to a criminally insane, it'd be a lot of people who look really calm.
Yes.
And maybe some of them look kind of charming. And they would never do anything. Like
no, also you can just have a door.
Yeah.
Just have a door.
Yeah.
Completely lock the door.
And also,
why are they behind like this dungeon-y bar?
I know. And then also like when they go right before they go in, there's this red light coming down on them.
Yeah.
And I get that it's trying to make it look like they're going into hell.
Yeah.
But what is that red light really for? Like practically?
Exit time.
It's just a giant red. I don't know. It just feels so.
Yeah.
But that's what makes the movie so cool. It's like the great acting allows the Gothic horror of it to work.
Not seem campy.
And this is a tradition. In Psycho, Norman Bates' acting is so great, but he's literally like, his house is like a haunted house.
Yes,
he's walking
on top
down
of a hill.
Yeah. It is so Gothic.
That would be the first place you would look for something
and
to be wrong.
that's the other thing. Serial killers are typically hard to catch because like a lot of times they just seem like normal unassuming people. Buffalo Bill does not seem like a normal unassuming person. She opens the door at the end, he's like, oh.
He's like always in his robe. It's
oh, I'll leave her now. It's just like
it certainly wouldn't be like if you interviewed his neighbors, they wouldn't be like, he seemed like such a normal guy.
They're like, yeah, totally.
Like, no, we've been telling people.
He's really freaky.
Women scream.
He laughs for no reason.
Every night there's a woman screaming.
Yeah, there's two. The basements in this are where it gets most Gothic.
Yeah.
The prison basement's ridiculous.
Yeah.
His basement, I've never seen a basement in a home that is once again
We're in a basement.
Yeah, this is a basement. I'm not, there's not like a well.
Yeah. I mean, he had to.
What is that well?
He dug it, I think.
What? It's like a one-story home, and then the basement is this giant
massive
dungeon.
Place.
Like this.
The home is mostly basement.
Yeah, it's like weird.
It's not the size of the home.
It's like that. There's a funny joke of that. I don't know if you saw Loaded Weapon. It was like spoof of Lethal Weapon. I think it was called Loaded Weapon. It was like National Lampoons. They go into Emilio Estevan's playing the Mel Gibson character from Lethal Weapon. They go into his trailer, and she goes in, and inside it's like a mansion. She's like, "Wow, it looks a lot smaller on the outside."
Yeah.
But so that's but they go in the basement. I do want to also talk about cuts and how amazing the transition from scenes are. One of the first incredible cuts is when Jack Crawford is telling her not to forget who he is, and Jodie Foster goes, "What is he?" And then it cuts to Chilton going, "A monster."
Yes. That was a great cut because that's when they show the outside of the Victorian castle.
It's beautiful to cut like that.
Yeah.
To have the answer to one question, to have a question and the answer be the next scene.
Yeah.
The cuts in this movie, the editing and the cuts are incredible. Every scene ends, the line right before that scene kind of foreshadows the next scene. Like for instance, he'll go, who knows when he'll kill again? Then it cuts to her, the fat woman driving, you know what I mean? And then like every scene, like and the editing, so when she goes there, they have that scene, the come on her face, she leaves. And then there's also this incredible editing where they don't ever show anyone saying what to do.
Yeah.
So she's on the phone, and this is like any screenwriter should really like learn from this movie. She's on the phone with Jack Crawford, and she's like, "Oh, I figured that the thing you said was this anagram, or like this anagram, or like a pun."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "I looked it up. There's actually," which is also ridiculous, but like and she goes, "I looked it up. It's a yourself storage space." And then instead of the scene, which every screenwriter would write, where they go, "All right, even though you're a student, I want you to go there." It literally goes, she's like, I think it's a place called that. It cuts to the place, and it cuts to just her there.
Yeah, and that scene's so scary for some reason, because she's like in such a vulnerable position, but then she's very smart. You can tell in that scene she's really smart, which is something she says later, is she immediately goes, people know where I am. And they will be looking for me. So, which is like literally what I say when I'm in a like a scary situation.
Before this
like
podcast.
Hey, Raanan, I told people. It was like one night I got into a shared Uber, and it was like 3 a.m. I got into a shared Uber, crazy idea. And there was something off in the vibes in that Uber. Do you know what I mean? Like when I called it, I don't remember calling a shared. So that's what was creepy about it already. But I was like, I guess I must have called a shared. I get in, there's a guy sitting in the seat next to me, and he has his hood up and he never takes it down.
Oh, wow.
And then it's this woman, and it's a smoky, like a foggy night in New York, and we're driving back to my place, but I was like, it's only 5 or like 10 blocks or whatever. And then I got really scared. So I called Tommy, who at the time lived in LA, but on the phone, I said, I'm almost home. Can you just wait for me downstairs? I'm almost home.
That's so funny.
And I ran out of that Uber because no one's there. Like I'm alone. I live alone, and it's 3 a.m.
I feel like sometimes women are just like, I might die, so at least people know where to find the body.
Yeah. Well, like I'm trying to communicate this to them that a guy is waiting for me at home.
Right.
But then you're also like, this is such a sham. Like no one, you know.
Yeah, no, that's really, Men don't have to do that. Men don't have to be like,
men don't.
They know where I am.
Yeah.
Men are like, my girlfriend knows I'm supposed to be home later.
The only time you guys do that is to be like, I can't stay out.
Right.
My girlfriend's at home.
Exactly. But yeah, the theme of this movie, she's always in dark, the underground, the prison, and now in this dark storage space.
But she has like a wherewithal, and like she knows that life is scary. Her dad has died young, and she's aware that like she's not like a dumb, And then when the senator's on TV and she keeps saying Catherine, and it cuts to Jodie Foster, and she says, that's so smart, she's using her name. Yeah. Which is also another thing I've done in a cab before. in Costa Rica, also 3 a.m. I got into this random cab. He's supposed to take me to my hostel, but I was like, he could also just kill me because I got this car off the street. Like you
could be killed at the hostel too. That seems like a dangerous
I could
place.
be killed anywhere there. And then I kept going, do you have kids? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, how old are they? And he was like 20, whatever. And I was 20 something at the time. And I was like 21. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the same age as your daughter. I'm like your daughter. Can you believe that? Your daughter and I are like the same people.
She's a human being.
Yes, she's a human being.
Logic.
I literally said that over and over again in this cab, to the point where I could tell he was like, what the fuck is going on? He's like, is she gonna kill me?
No, it is funny that like it's very smart.
Yeah.
If you say a woman's name enough, you might see them as a human being.
yeah, literally. You have to be shown that I'm also a person, you know?
No, to be fair, I think once you're cutting off women's skin, I don't think
the name's going.
I don't think you're gonna be like, oh yeah.
But then when it cuts to Buffalo Bill, he does say it puts and you can tell that
he's trying to
he doesn't want to think of her as a person.
But it's just, I also think the editing of cutting to her at the storage space really quickly like that makes you ignore another thing that is kind of a question, which is what are FBI students allowed to do? Like, are they allowed to?
They keep saying she's a student.
I keep on forgetting she graduates at the end of that movie. Like, I'm like,
in a weird way, it's so similar. The beginning is so similar to me of the beginning of The Departed, where they're running and they're
right.
And then it's just goes in completely different directions, where this woman's like, not like, she's literally under the weight of a door.
Yeah.
And
wait, what part in Departed?
In The Departed, the first scene, they're running. They're like in the police academy and they're running.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is like the same beginning scene. They're all wearing gray. They're all running.
Right. And there's a similar, isn't there him getting shot too? Like fake shot? Or is that just in Silence of the Lambs? Is there a part where he busts in and they're like, you're dead or something, or no? Maybe that's just in Silence of the Lambs.
I can't remember.
But anyway, but it is very similar to the police. Yeah. But like, she's like, I guess by the quick editing, it avoids this weird thing where she's like, look, I know you're a student.
Yeah.
But I need you to do this investigation.
You like assume a lot of conversations they had. Yeah. Also, like,
but those conversations would be ridiculous.
Why is she being picked to do this? You know?
I mean,
I assume she's very just like a
Jack
good
Crawford
student.
Wants to kind of fuck her.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he like sees something in her. He definitely does. And he's training her.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like they don't have FBI agents who could look in that storage facility.
Yes.
It's not like it's
and an agent who's probably closer.
I mean, now it makes sense. He'd be like, Elon Musk cut our whole funding.
Right.
So we
need an intern to go.
It is weird. I mean, but once again, fast editing avoids that conversation. Yeah. So, and it just makes the movie so quick to the point where you're not even thinking about the plot a lot, and you're just flowing along with it. So she goes in there, she finds the head, and then she goes back to Hannibal Lecter. And by the way, this is about like 20 minutes into the movie. So much shit has happened so quickly, and there's something that one of the things that makes this movie so riveting is the craziness of the plot. With the, I mean, I'm repeating myself, but with the great acting, makes you have your cake and eat it too. You feel like you're watching something real, and yet it has the insanity of something very unbelievable.
Yeah. But something just unreal.
I mean, it's insane. Yeah. Like he's like literally like she's literally get an assessment on this guy. Yeah. And next thing you know, she's finding a beheaded corpse.
Yes. And also the mask and the airport hangar. It just feels like,
oh, it's insane.
Who would transport a person?
Why can't they call?
Why? Yes.
Why does she need to look at him?
Or why can't she go into that dungeon where he already lives?
Yeah.
Everyone else is allowed to go there, apparently. Like the student is there.
It's all fucking insane.
Yeah.
None of it makes any sense.
Yeah,
and that's how great the movie is.
But also, then you kind of remember,
I guess we are questioning it,
but only because we're forced to.
Yeah.
You know, like
because I created a shitty, annoying podcast.
Only because you told me to question it. But it's like that's like what I think are. I mean, I think there's plenty of incredible movies coming out every year, but one of the main things I am so frustrated with going to the movies is why is this thing so long?
Yes.
Like even a great movie, I'm like, it could have been so much better if
we just accepted it. And this is a problem in movies. Like
people don't edit anymore.
And I hate to say this because I'm obviously on the side of the Scorsese's and the Bakers versus Marvel.
Yeah.
But these directors talk so much shit about Marvel, and then their movies are just as long, if not longer than Marvel. It's like, this is also a problem. And what's happened is, it's kind of like how the middle class is disappearing. There's no, like, everything's extreme.
Yes.
It's either a giant Marvel movie or kind of sometimes an inaccessible, really bloated movie like Killers of the Flower Moon, which is like...
Which was an incredible novel
that was
they
ruined.
made, into this...
Taking suspense away so long, and it's like, you talk about why people aren't going to the theater, but it's like, you should have just made a TV show if you're going to make it that long.
There was that article, I think this past week, maybe in The Atlantic, but it was like the new literalism in movies. And it's partly about like editing, but it's also partly about like, because our attention spans are lower, it seems like we are making movies that, well, the article itself was about how everything is spelled out in movies now.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be spelled out. And we're sitting here being like, how come they didn't have this conversation scene? And that's like a plus for this movie is that you get to put it together. But now everything is spelled out because you're not paying attention.
Right.
So it needs to have that extra scene as like connective tissue, because if you're watching...
They assume you're not paying attention.
Yes. If you're watching this movie and it goes... what is he? And it straight cuts to this next scene. You might look up from your phone and be like, where am I?
Right, exactly.
Like, where did
Netflix
the story go?
Telling people to like put that in the thing.
Yes, they'd be like, spell this out for this person.
But it is interesting. It's like, do we have shorter attention spans, or do they just not make movies like they used to? Because I feel like if I saw Silence of the Lambs now, I wouldn't be going up like taking pauses. It's so riveting.
Okay, I don't think it's shorter attention spans. Like, I genuinely don't think the attention span is the problem as much as you're just presuming behaviors in life that didn't used to exist, right? So like you're assuming that when someone's watching a movie, they have their phone handy. So it's not that your attention span has shrunk as much as you just have like someone can be texting you now. And that's not because I can't focus, because I could go to the movies and have it all be turned off and focus for 3 hours.
Right.
But it's more likely that I'll get distracted because someone's calling for my attention.
Like if you're watching a teacher in class and someone next to you is like yelling in your ear, that doesn't mean you have ADD.
Yes, it doesn't mean you have ADD.
It's like ADD would be like a
life
thought.
Circumstances have changed.
ADD would be like thoughts that keep on going in your head distract you. But the phone, I guess, has become part of our brain. But it is technically this external thing that's distracting us.
And like when you don't have your phone, I'm never in the movie theater being like, man, I wish I could scroll right now.
Right.
You know? There are people like that and they have shorter attention spans. But it's like, it's not because I'm missing this attention span. It's just more likely that someone's going to call my attention.
Right. But I do think like it is weird though that like, I mean, it's not weird. It's the fact that there's movies that are either Marvel or directors do whatever the fuck they want because no one's watching anyway. And like they just don't edit. And it's like every movie now, like Silence of the Lambs does not have one slow moment. And I think we've just accepted that every movie now has slow moments.
And it's interesting too because Silence of the Lambs does not have a slow moment, and yet it is a really like
human drama.
They stay on a scene.
Yeah.
Like from time to time they'll stay on a scene, and now people are like, if you stay on a scene and just a face, it becomes boring now.
Right.
People don't like that.
It's the focus in the movie, the attention in a scene that actually makes it, and the humanness of it that actually makes it riveting. Because it's a crazy story, but also with like characters they spend a lot of time developing.
And like, why are we lingering on this cross-eyed guy's face?
Right.
But they do. They take the time to do that. So it's not like they're cutting everything. It's not like the movies just go, but there is pacing that makes sense. Like it's pacing.
It's not the movie that's go. It's the story that's go. The story is itself is just kind of crazy fast.
Like Long Legs could have been 30 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
It would have made a better movie.
Every movie we've just accepted now could be like 30 minutes shorter.
I think everything should be 30 minutes shorter.
It's like that. Like Silence of the Lambs, like you can't cut anything from that.
No.
And that's like the 90s movies has had that. I remember I watched Men in Black, rewatched it. It was so like it ended. I was like, did the TV just like black out?
Are we done?
It's like, oh no, they just used to make an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
And it's like Silence of the Lambs is the most fucking entertaining movie ever.
Yes.
It's just insane. It just notches it up and up and up, but while keeping the human drama and then like
keeping attention.
And so everything happens fast. She's back to Hannibal Lecter, then they kidnap the girl.
Yeah.
And even that, like, there's so many little things that they just don't spell out, but are still there. What?
There is a moment where he's kidnapping the girl, like the first girl he kidnaps, where he's like moving the chair and he does the Ted Bundy thing. Yeah.
That's why I never help crippled people.
I know. But then you know what's so funny is she goes up and she goes, you seem like, do you need help? Because you seem a little handicapped. I just thought that's such a funny line to just go up to a guy and be like, because you're handicapped. Then he's like, I will kill you. He's like, that is so, I was never going to kill you, but actually now I will.
It's also like, she must never ever, like she could see like a guy in a wheelchair fall over on the highway and she's like, I ain't helping him.
Yeah.
Like she's never going to help handicapped people ever again.
No, I mean.
I also feel bad. This is a little offensive, but it sucks that he kills like fat women because you think one of the perks of being a fat woman is that serial killers aren't going for you.
But the women aren't that fat. When he goes, what are you, size 14? I was like, I don't think so.
She's pretty fat.
I think she's like size 8.
I don't know sizes, but I mean, she's big. She actually gained 25 pounds for the role, which I think is the only time a woman ever gained weight for a role. I think if they ask that now, they're like, that's
she's
like insane.
She's not that fat though, is she? I'm trying to like.
Let's test this. Do you think I'm thin?
I would say you're a size 8.
But so you notice how he throws a dress on the and that's like his calling card. They barely mention that. And the first one I was rewatching once, I was like, is this a hole in the movie that they know it's Buffalo Bill? But they say very quickly on the news, his calling card, throwing the dress out. But like, so right away, we're about 40 minutes in, and a senator's daughter
is in a hole in the basement.
It is, and once again, yet the movie is
also
told
female senator.
Let's
go. Okay,
and it's an understate, and it's like just still being understated the movie, but it's like this is like crazier than anything on 24.
Notched up by a lot.
And not only that she's in the well, but we know we have about 3 days.
Yeah, and it's like interesting. It has to be a senator's daughter because now they're like. They have to focus now.
Yeah.
Because they've let like 10 women die.
Yeah, it was just fat women.
Yeah, now they're like, we cannot let this die.
It does say, like, how many fat women would they have gone through before they cared if it wasn't
Yeah, it's, I mean, clearly 10. Yeah. Like, they're like, we're good with this. And we'll let a student take care of this as long as it's just 10 randos. But the minute it's someone important.
Just get a student on it.
Yeah.
She's a girl. She'll know what to do.
They're also like, they're like, with the senator's daughter, they're talking about the president and they're like, he's skiing in Vermont. And I was like, random shot. Just unnecessary, but
he
really
said
funny.
That once some more hotter women are kidnapped,
I'll come down from the slopes and I'll focus on this.
So now, I mean, so the movie's fucking cooking. She goes back to him. You have the... and then I think it's around here where he goes to speak to the senator.
Yeah.
And another thing, there's so many scenes that they don't show where you're like, which is also great. Like, they don't show him taking that pen.
Yeah.
And it makes you never go, how the fuck did he take that pen?
Yeah. But you're like, you can assume you can just.
But how would he have taken it? He's in a muzzle, and like his nose is to his face.
And they do say again and again at the beginning, they're like, don't give him hard paper.
Yeah.
Then she hands him a bunch of files that are like manila. And I'm like, he's gonna cut someone with this. Like, this is not soft paper.
Yeah, he gives her paper, and then he's the one who forgets about the pen thing.
Yeah.
You know? Is that, if you just have a pen, will you just be able to, is that how easy it is to get out of handcuffs?
No, I mean, but he's like a superhero.
Right.
He's like a genius.
But that doesn't change the mechanics of a handcuff.
No, but there must be something you can do. There must be.
So the senator, so he goes there. I mean, the fact that he has to go there is insane.
It's crazy.
It's insane. But, and then we go to basically her coming to speak to him in the Baltimore. Is that Baltimore or? I think
it's in Baltimore because he says, I can show you a good night in Baltimore.
Oh, right. And I just want to say, like, it is so, the part in the screenplay, I've read the screenplay, and in the screenplay, there's a scene. You know how she goes to see him in the cage and she brings those paintings? In the screenplay, there's a scene where Crawford goes, because you know how they're on the outs with Hannibal Lecter. He feels deceived. Which, by the way, it's funny that Crawford's like, I couldn't have let you know you were trying to get assessment. He would have smelled that right away. But then he does believe all her other lies.
Yeah.
She's like, you can't let it, he'll know when you're lying.
Yes.
He says that. He's like, I'll know when you're lying.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you're going to be on an island and get to swim in the ocean. And
he's like, oh my God. Once a day, swim in the ocean. Why would they let you do that? You are behind glass right now.
It's called Anthrax Island.
Yeah.
How did he go from like, tell me the truth and I'll know if you're lying, I'll get to swim in the ocean.
People want to believe the things they want to believe.
I guess that's what it is.
You want to believe the lies.
But so she goes with the painting. Then in the screenplay, and once again, this is a lesson for screenwriters. Try to avoid scenes where you're saying what you're going to do in the next scene.
Yeah.
Because so much of this movie is just showing what they do and cutting out the part where you're like, I'm going to go here.
Yeah.
And, in the screenplay, there's in it, Crawford says, look, we need to get Hannibal Lecter to like us again. I got a plan. Bring the paintings. And then he'll that scene's not in there.
Yeah.
She shows up with the paintings. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You don't even, I don't think most people even connect like, the painting. But it doesn't matter. Like, it's just the movie's flowing without discussions of how to do exposition or discussions on how to do stuff,
Like you put it together that she's being manipulative rather than someone saying you should go manipulate this guy.
Exactly. And the exposition is so beautifully organic to the movie. I mean, think about how great it is for character development that she has to get information from the serial killer, but he'll only allow it if she gives background information on herself.
Yes.
So you can just get all this great backstory, but it's part of the plot.
Yeah. And it's like he's not really getting anything out of that. Like
he's just interested.
Yeah, he's just interested.
That is funny. He's like quid pro quo.
Yeah, it's like
you get to tell me about your life.
Yeah.
Quid pro quo.
I would love to have a chat. It's like we're on a date.
Quid pro quo. You get to tell me childhood trauma. I guess he wants to be a therapist again.
Right.
And
right, there's something he misses about that.
Yeah, and so she tells the story about the land, which is of course great. The animal stuff in this movie is very interesting because you have the lamb, which is essentially the woman in the well, and then you have Buffalo Bill, who's a moth.
Yeah.
And then her last name is Starling, which is a bird.
Is moth for like, I would assume like they eat dead stuff? Like is that?
I think it's about just transformation to a butterfly.
But a moth doesn't become a butterfly.
Well, wait, does it not?
Do you think? Do you think moths become butterflies?
But they transform. They go in the cocoon and come back up again, right?
Right, like a caterpillar becomes a butterfly.
Yeah, and a moth
is like a larva that becomes a moth.
Yeah, same shit. Okay. It's just an ugly butterfly.
Right, but they don't go with butterfly. They go with moth.
Interesting, yeah.
Because it eats dead stuff.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
Well, a butterfly actually eats dead bodies.
I don't really?
Know. Yeah.
Really? Like if you open like a
that's what I've heard.
Coffin, it'll be butterflies all over a corpse.
I've heard that a butterfly will eat a human dead body.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely have the death head moth, which is like the skull thing on it.
Oh yeah.
But you're right. It is interesting they don't say butterfly, but then they still have butterfly imagery.
Maybe it's too beautiful to be.
But they still have butterfly imagery all through the movie.
Right.
Like yeah. So it's like they kind of want to it's like they're kind of doing both.
Having both. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so
it's really funny that you thought a moth became a butterfly.
Whatever, same thing. So he's a moth and she's a bird.
Uh-huh.
And then the bird is trying to save the lamb from the moth.
Yeah.
That's the animal.
Yeah. And what is Hannibal?
Hannibal is I don't think he's an animal.
Yeah.
He's just
Lecter.
Yeah, I don't know. But there's a cat too. The cat kind of helps the bird.
Who's the cat?
Well, you got the cat in the seat. So you have the cat when she's in the window, the girl's cat.
Yes.
And then you have
sad.
Very sad. Yeah. I didn't care for her. I'm not really into fat chicks, but when she had a cat, it really humanized.
Yeah. You were like, oh man, a cat is gonna starve probably.
Oh yeah. But then when she goes at the end, there's a cat who is go in this room.
Yeah.
The cat's like, and that's where she finds the.
Oh, and there's a dog. He has a dog. He has a little yappy dog.
Yeah. Which looks like a lamb.
Yeah, and his name is Buffalo.
Buffalo. Yeah, it's all animals.
Yeah, it's a lot
like
of
Animal
animals.
Farm.
Yeah.
So, all right, where are we? We got. I guess we're pretty much to the end.
We're pretty much at the end.
He cuts off
Act 3.
He cuts off the face.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm watching this, once again, it's great acting and it's such a campy thing, but it's amazing that a movie won Best Picture that involves someone cutting off someone's face, putting on their face.
Best Picture?
It won Best Picture.
Wow.
It's the only Best Picture where the last line is, I'm going to eat someone later tonight. It's the magic of this movie.
Ooh, I think I'm going to eat someone.
This is no more gross than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's done in such an elegant way that people just accepted it. It's literally cuts off a face, put it on. But this is not seen as
one of the first, because I rewatched it this morning, and it was I woke up and put this on.
Okay. I really
crazy movie.
I really ruined your day.
Tommy was there. I put this on, and he's like, "What are you watching?"
Watch it? I know he's afraid of horror movies.
He has seen it before. He said, but when he was like a kid.
Okay.
But I have a projector, and it's a pretty dark movie, so you have to do the. So we put the blinds down and watch this movie, and one of the first scenes is when she goes to see what's his name, her boss. Mm-hmm. He has all these newspaper cuttings.
Yeah,
and
so gross.
It's really gross.
It's actually the most graphic part of the movie.
And it's crazy because I'm like, they did not publish that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't publish that in a newspaper.
Right. Well, but I don't think they're all newspaper pictures.
Right. Some of it
Those
is
are FBI
photos. And it's so gross that I was like, I am immediately sick by this movie.
I actually thought about that. I'm like, that is the most graphic part of the movie.
Yes, it's incredibly graphic.
Because they don't really show much skinning, but that scene is
later
just like,
when they're doing the autopsy
when they
or
bring
whatever.
her over.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that is the most graphic part is her just looking over at the chalkboard.
Yeah. And it's also crazy when they put the thing under their nose. It's such a great way to bring like a second sense into, because all we have is like visual, but once she puts on like the thing under her nose, you are now involved in like the pungent thing she's experiencing.
You're being reminded of the smell, which is I always thought interesting. That's the one thing movies cannot.
It makes you queasy to think about the fact that she has to put something under her nose.
It's the one thing movies really can't.
They can't, and they did such a good. It's such a brilliant move to just put that little thing, and now you're suddenly thinking about the smell that's in that room. I was like,
it's great.
It made me queasy this morning. I was like,
but here's the other question, which I put in there, and I know I feel like we're going real long. Is this guy? Do you have like a couple more minutes? Or where are we? Oh my God, 3:43.
Okay.
How long have we been going?
I think 2:30.
Okay, so
3:43, like an hour 15.
10 minutes? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I have a lot to say about this movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's one of the best.
Jodie Foster's an incredible actress.
She's fucking amazing.
So good.
All right, so here's a question, which, I took my notes, never rape, serial killer, editing, POV. All right, this is the interesting question. Is it a horror movie?
Yeah, well, I would say it's like a horror thriller, right? Because like, I think the thriller component of this is what keeps the movie.
Right. It's definitely a thriller.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thriller. And I would say if you did 100 best thrillers of all time, it would probably be in the first couple.
Right.
When you do a horror movie list, it's never real. It might be on there. It's never in the top 3. So it's become a question, what makes a horror movie exactly?
Right. Okay. So I think like when I think about a genre of a movie, you want to think about like the engine that's driving the story. And in this, the engine is the thriller aspect of it. Is like you are kind of solving a mystery.
Right.
And so that's the main engine. That's why the plot is moving forward.
Which gets to, I think, what makes this not a horror movie. Because obviously this is not a horror movie. Obviously Zodiac is not a horror movie. Seven is not a horror movie.
No.
What makes a horror movie, to me, is the nature of helplessness. If the main character is being attacked by a force and they're helpless, that's a horror movie.
Yes.
In this, the main character is not helpless. Is actually the person trying to like figure out everything. Yeah. Maybe if it was told by the girl's perspective.
Yeah. Then it would be horror.
Without information, it would have been horror. But when the protagonist is a detective, she is not in danger until the end. So
she has power.
She has power. So it doesn't have the helplessness of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they're just going into a house.
That's a horror.
That's horror.
Yeah. It's also like I think the other aspect of horror is like there is a sense of like a hunting and like the hunted, and
she's hunting him.
Yeah, and in this the protagonist is hunting.
Yeah.
But in horror movies, the protagonists are being hunted.
Right, exactly. And I do think it comes down to helplessness.
Yeah.
I think a real horror movie, if you look at Exorcist, if you look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Shining, it's helplessness.
Yeah.
There's no there's no escape. There's helplessness. Yeah. But like a thriller is a person kind of like having some control.
Yeah,
you know? It's really a horror movie from his perspective because he'd be scared of the cop coming down. No,
right. That's our main protagonist.
Yeah. So it is a thriller, and it's filmed like a fucking drama. I mean, it's told like a drama, and it's interesting. I mean, I don't find it necessarily like a scary movie. It's gross.
No, it is gross.
And it's very suspenseful.
There isn't really like moments where you are scared until like pretty much the end. Yeah. Where you're worried about her.
Yeah, that part is like really intense.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like kind of.
I've heard that they shot a different ending.
They shot an ending where he called. Apparently, the ending, Hannibal Lecter calls and he's like, "I love you." He's being gay again. He's like, "Nice blue dress." So it's like he's watching or something. But then you find out he's in Chilton's home and he's like tied him up. And he's like, "Let's begin." Like he says that line again. Let's get to work. Okay. I heard that was a different ending.
Okay. You know? So there's no ending where she dies.
Oh no, I don't believe so. Because in the book she survives. I mean, it is fairly loyal to the book. You know, that'd be crazy if she died.
Yeah,
that would be the most.
That would be so insane.
She just gets killed.
It would be crazy.
I mean, frankly, she should have been dead because she's in the dark. He has a gun on her.
Yes.
By the way, I have to say, he's pretty slow to pull the trigger because, like, you're behind me. I have the gun on you. Somehow you have time to turn around and shoot me, and I don't have time to pull the trigger and all that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's also got to be partly that he's not getting anything out of killing. Like, his killing is so much to do with whatever his mission.
He's not like,
that it's almost like he's not a killer in that, I don't know, in that way.
Yeah, he's just like playing with her.
Yeah.
Because he is like just like
he's kind of just hanging.
Yeah.
And the fear that she feels is really what drives him, right?
Right.
Because his whole thing is like playing with your prey.
But that being said, if I have the gun on you and you're spinning around, that's about what, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? You think I'd have time to pull the trigger.
Yeah. But
really
maybe
freezes.
He thought she's spinning around. It's like,
maybe he thought she didn't have a gun.
What are you gonna?
Right.
What's your move right now? You know?
And then he dies like just complete bug. That's where you're reminded this is like Universal horror movie.
Yeah.
He is literally Bugman on the ground.
Yeah.
But I really say, like, I love Zodiac for opposite reasons. I think Zodiac is
Zodiac's also a great movie.
Great movie. And I think it's a thriller that actually manages to be completely realistic.
Yeah.
And that's a different type of movie.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as riveting as Silence of the Lambs.
Because it is truly just the true story.
It's a true story.
Looking at.
And it's real. It feels real. And it Zodiac is a movie that did not let the reality make it less scary.
Yeah.
It figured out a way. Mainly through the fact that David Fincher is so cinematically sensational that he allowed this kind of journalistic story to just, he knew how to make it come to life.
Yeah.
But this movie, what this movie gets to, in its ridiculousness, it gets to a primal archetypal story.
Yeah.
She's down in the basement with the monster.
Yeah.
So you might not have reality, but you have basically Joseph Campbell.
Right.
You have an ancient story.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so, to me, universal. Yeah.
You have something that you immediately know how to root for and how to be afraid of. And it's like really embedded stories.
Really embedded.
Like epics. Basically, he's a minotaur who lives in a basement.
To defeat him, she has to be in the darkness.
Maze, and there's a
maze, and to confront the enemy, you have to go down in the darkness. You have to be like there's such archetypal shit here.
Yeah.
And her need to get this lambs to stop screaming, to try to bring justice back into the world.
And he has this like superpower of reading your mind, essentially, is like what's implied, even though clearly he can't.
They make him, the director, Jonathan Demme, said he wanted him to feel supernatural.
Yeah, he feels supernatural, of course. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, there's one point where he just appears, like, he's like in the back, and she's like, how'd you get there?
I mean, he's also so supernatural. Like, the only thing that can stop him is basically like what amounts to a spell. Like you have to physically stop this monster.
Hannibal Lecter's supernatural because after he kills the two guys in that jail cell, a regular person will be like, I got to get out of here really quickly.
Yeah.
He takes the time to listen to some Chopin or whatever, which is crazy. By the way, do they now have a camera in that room?
They let him do whatever he wants to do as long as
also,
they can keep him.
He asked for a second dinner. Can't you say no?
Yeah. Why would he get a second dinner? What has he been good his whole life? Like what?
Wouldn't that be a problem? Wouldn't he just ask for a second dinner every night?
Yes. And he's like, and can it be human meat? Because I kind of like that.
It is funny that I ordered lamb chops. It is really funny that she told a story about
They should make him vegetarian.
Well, it's just funny that she told a story about saving a lamb, and he's like, that really makes me move for lamb chops.
Ooh.
But so the movie, and I think it's one of the best movies ever made. I think it is the great classical Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
Ridiculous story, told
Incredible
in a way
actors.
that you just buy it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny we say that. We've just been deconstructing it. But we've watched it a lot of times. But it's the magic of fucking movies. It's like a pulp story.
Yeah.
Told in a way that you feel it. Godfather, Jaws, Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
They all come from that tradition. And it's just like, it's incredible. And it ends with one of my favorite lines that I just think is so beautiful when Hannibal Lecter goes, I'm not coming for you. The world is more interesting with you in it. I just think that's just like such a beautiful line, you know?
Kind of a huge compliment.
Yeah, it's a huge compliment.
Really nice.
And it's just like a movie that's just like, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but they do not make them like they used to.
No, they don't. And they literally just tried. Like they just made long legs. Yeah.
Yeah, they literally tried. And that movie is like, that is the opposite. It's like, I'm watching it going, this is laughably ridiculous. Great for 30 minutes.
It's also like, I think the choices that are being made, including Jodie Foster's voice, which is not a choice she's making. That's like how she talks. But it gives the movie texture and does not take away from like the whole thing. It like makes it interesting. It makes them like kind of people.
Yes. I mean, she feels like this. I mean, that Southern woman who's like smart and
he says, like, what is your dad, like a coal miner or whatever? Yeah. First of all, no.
He was wrong about that.
You're immediately wrong.
He's really not omniscient.
He's not
he's
good.
Like, you're white trash. No. You see her in, like, a really nice middle-class neighborhood.
Yeah. Like, her dad was, like, a sheriff or whatever.
But it's funny. She's like, you see very well. But it's like...
But she's trying to compliment. Like, she's manipulative.
Right.
You know?
You're right. Good point. I got manipulated right there.
Yeah. You're like, wow, she was being so nice.
He is wrong. He is like, you're white trash. I mean, anyone could say that you wanted to get out of your town and run to the FBI.
Yes.
I could say that.
Literally, I went to go get my palm ready yesterday, and I was like, yeah, you could say anything.
I could say that too. Look at you, wanting to run away and go all the way to stand-up comedy at SNL, run away from your demons.
She literally goes, you want to be successful. And like, who would not want to be successful?
That's like when I used to be a drunk and I'd be mean to people. I would tell people I was really mad at them. I'd be like, you're going to die alone. And they get so upset because they'd be like, that's my biggest fear. And I'm like, of course.
Of course it is. That's everyone's biggest fear. Yeah.
You know, we all hope we have a beautiful ending like Gene Hackman where the wife dies and you walk around in an Alzheimer's phase. Which is best case scenario.
One of the writers had a really good joke about that at work. I was like, oh, did you hear that Gene Hackman survived for 7 days after his wife died? So it's so sad because he only got to fuck her like 2 more times.
Did that make it on the show?
Almost. I was like, that was so, because it wasn't even written. He like said it to us in an elevator.
Did you?
And you genuinely thought he was sad about this.
That's hilarious. Did you work on SNL 50?
No, I did not.
It was kind of good.
It was really good. Yeah.
I was that. Like, I'm really surprised. Your show was.
It was like I honestly hadn't seen like front to back a whole episode in a really long time because like when you're just working when the show's going on, so you're not watching the whole show. And I watched that entire thing, and I was like, wow,
there's something special about it.
There's something really. I mean, it really felt like I was being inculcated into a cult. You know, but I was like, wow, it's truly such a historic, such a like there's like things that people say where it's like politicians that you remember don't talk, you don't remember the way they actually talk, you remember the way SNL portrayed it. That's how much of an effect the show makes.
It is really funny. I know you can't comment on this, but it's really funny at the end. You see like everyone on stage, you're all crying, and Lorne Michaels just there stone faced at the end. Just like
so funny.
But so I mean, no, it was awesome. That part with John Lovitz was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. That was incredible. So all right, we got to wrap this up. I know it's been a little long, but I appreciate it. I knew it was gonna be a little long. I love this movie and I have so much to say about the movie. But before we do plugs, I'll just say what I think. I already said I like to say what the movie says about you, but we already know. Overachiever. You want your dad to be proud of you. Who's your Jack Crawford? Is that Lorne Michaels?
Does he want to fuck me? No.
Your dad would be proud of you.
It's like she's an overachiever. She's in a male-dominated field, and she stands on her brain. Yeah. No, she is very relatable. She's trying not to get fucked all the time. She's trying to use her brain.
I just see you in the SNL elevator, always mad, and then she when the door closes.
Oh, no.
So do you have any, thanks for doing it. Do you have any plugs?
Yes, I'm on the road. I'm on the road all the time now. I am in St. Paul on the 21st of March. I am at Zanies Nashville, April 25th, 26th. I am then like summer tour. But you can just find me on Instagram at KC Shornima.
Yeah, check her out. She's really funny. A lot of great jokes. I love her comedy. And you can see me, punchup.live/Raanan/tickets. I'll be at Looney's Comedy Club in Colorado Springs not this weekend, but the next weekend. And then I'm also going to be in Acme in Minneapolis. I'm going to be in Mark Ridley's in Royal Oak, Michigan. So check that all out and just subscribe to our Patreon. We got great stuff on the Patreon. And thank you all so much. Thank you, Casey, for being here. Cut.
Raanan is fat and he's a Jew. He'll tell you something that you already knew. Your favorite movie sucks. Your favorite movie sucks. American Beauty or Forrest Gump. Your favorite movie sucks.